We were all aligned in formation, our strategy flawless. Our many small hidden ships were positioned tactically. Our dreadnoughts demanded attention. These neonates, these newcomers, the humans, would soon learn the true face of war, as we all did as children of the galaxy, in the forging fires of battle. As is custom and tradition, we offered them one last chance to surrender. In response, they offered us the same, signaling the start of the battle. No sooner said than done. Our microwave pulsers released a nearly endless wave of directed energy at the human ships. To their credit, they obviously had good intel, as their ships seemed to have been fitted with microwave shielding. But it was not sufficient. Despite reflecting a good portion of the rays anyway, most surely punched through. In truth, we did feel slightly bad for them, knowing the horror of being cooked alive by the invisible energy. At least we took comfort in knowing that death was likely instant, considering the sheer power of our weapons. We continued to fire for upwards of 5 minutes. None of the human vessels have moved during this time. Finally, we took a break to let our pulse cannons vent the heat. The humans were fresh faces, curious as all intelligent species are, but too ambitious, we thought, grabbing up too much land and resources. Their growth needed overseeing and moderation by the older species making up the collective. War was never the most elegant solution, but it was the fastest, and in this case we decided the best. Their ambitions would be curbed once they realized the vast gulf between our technologies and military might. Before the war even started, we drafted a very generous plan of integration. They would serve us for a meager 50,000 years while being educated to embrace their rightful place in the pecking order of our collective, and then perhaps be granted full citizenship in another 50,000 years, an opportunity few other species would receive. We went into the war confident, as we rightfully should. In truth, it was more of formality than anything, a rite of passage for any species that grew large enough to draw our attention. Humanity certainly did that, as they clawed their way out of the cradle of their birth planet in the shortest amount of time, and quickly became quite prosperous. More than anything, we were worried our weapons might have killed too many of them in those short 5 minutes. We still wanted to offer them a chance to surrender after the initial volley, and not antagonize them so much that they believed this to be a war for survival. No, we just wanted to teach them a valuable lesson about being so cocksure and ambitious, while still being so ignorant of how tiny they were in comparison to our glorious and eternal collective. As our weapons cooled down, we finally got a transmission from the human capital ship. We were relieved to hear they were still alive and capable of basic communication. Their transmission went as follows. "This is Fleet Admiral Carius of the 108th Stellar Fleet. We have received your transmission, but were unable to decode it. We request a repeat through the usual channels." This gave us pause. Was this a plan of theirs? To buy time? They should know that the outcome would be inevitable, regardless of how many previous seconds they could buy. Still, our microwave cannons had a few minutes left to cool, so we responded with our previous transmission, which was our offer of surrender. Was this perhaps a way for them to save face? To request the offer for surrender again? That idea came to an abrupt stop when their admiral clarified. "This is Admiral Carius. We were referring to the messages sent through your microwave transmitters. Our receivers are not yet calibrated to decode microwave transmissions. We request a retransmission." This left us all stumped. We couldn't understand the logic here, as at first it seemed they were begging us for an opportunity to surrender. Now they were asking us to shoot again? It took us a moment to realize the horrifying truth. The humans were so far behind us technologically that they didn't even realize we probably already eliminated most of them. Of course. It was clear now. Such a new species could not even imagine how an enemy would eliminate them in the perceived safety of their own ships, without any obvious material damage done to the ship itself. We overestimated them. In hindsight, it should have been obvious to us, considering how fast they expanded and how zealous they are. They were probably so sure of themselves that they didn't even check for casualties after the first energy burst they received. After all, this baseless confidence was the reason we were here to correct, and it seems we had many more lessons to teach the primitive humans. Feeling guilty, we clarified the situation for the humans, being as generous as we are. We even gave them a brief time to count their dead and offered them a third unprecedented opportunity to surrender. A short while later, their admiral responded. They claimed to have sustained no casualties or injuries and acknowledged our microwave barrage as an attack. He even warned us to prepare for a counterattack. This finally drew our ire. It was one thing to save face by claiming miscommunication, quite another to be blindingly ignorant of the truth, lie to your own people, and needlessly fight to the death. Clearly, these humans were insane, or at least their leader was. Our weapons were ready, and we were prepared to fire. But just then I started hearing raindrops, or at least I thought for a moment before the alarm started sounding. The humans had fired their weapons. Not microwave beams, no, but electromagnetic pellets, billions of them, accelerated within a percentage of the speed of light, fired simultaneously. It took them less than 1 second to shred every single ship in our fleet. The lethal drops carrying so much power that nearly all of them punched in and out the opposite side of the ship. Even our dreadnoughts, when hit from the heavily armoured front. So frightful and powerful were their weapons that anybody that came within an arm's length of the pellet as it was making its way through our ships was instantly vaporized. We were venting atmosphere at a deadly rate. Confusion and despair took over us all. In our overwhelming fear, we acted on instinct and training, meaning we made our way to the hangar. Few of us made it to the emergency shuttles, and a few of the shuttles were still operational. I was one of the lucky few. Soon, we received our final orders. 3/4 of us were to launch a breaching attempt in an effort to buy a chance for the remaining few to flee and tell the collective of what transpired. Hopefully, if the collective's entire armada moves fast enough, we might eliminate these humans before they reach any of our major habitable systems. We have underestimated them severely. And so we put the plan into motion. As expected, I was part of the majority charged with providing a distraction. Not many of us made it. But as if by miracle, my shuttle was mostly unharmed. Me and a small team made contact with a human ship. What more is that we latched ourselves to what we believed to be an access point. What incredible luck, we thought. Breach charge after breach charge. Our explosives didn't seem to do anything, until at last one of them managed to shake things up enough to trigger the access point to open, I thought. Armed to the teeth, screaming our war cry, we made our way in, ready to face death and give our lives so that those at home might survive. We fired our weapons, we ran down their corridors, then stopped. The ship was empty. The hallway we were on stretched endlessly with no doors in sight. The lights were dim and flickered rhythmically. The artificial gravity was not even engaged. We relied on our thrusters and magnetic boots to keep us tethered. The walls moved, contorting and expanding, strange geometric shapes protruding and retracting as if we were in the moving bowels of a large beast, ready to be digested. Our weapons were ineffective. Try as we might, we could not even scratch the surface of this place, much less breach into other rooms, if any other existed. We ran and shot and screamed. We kicked and punched and pressed on for nearly 30 minutes into the long straight tunnel. Presented with our own impotence in the face of an enemy we were too inept and unprepared to face, we returned meekly and in silence to our shuttle. We turned our receiver on to be greeted with static. We saw no other shuttles. Only the carcasses of our dreadnoughts were still barely recognizable, even though they were riddled with so many tiny holes from every direction that they became translucent to the stars in the background. Before we even had a chance to contemplate what it was that we were experiencing, I heard one more drop of rain, and then another before it all went white. I never had the chance to hear the last drop that got me. Next I knew, I woke up in a large room. I saw the faces of many of my comrades looking just as confused as I was. I knew then that the afterlife was real. I was never religious, but I had to face the facts, only that it looked a lot like one of our orbiting space stations. "Ah, you're one of the last to arrive. Come follow me for your debriefing. A being that looked oddly like an info desk worker of my species told me after looking at my nameplate. I suppose taking a familiar shape and role and placing me in a familiar environment was a way for the angels or gods or whatever divine beings or whatever religion turned out to be true to comfort and calm my soul before my final judgment. Hesitatingly, I asked, "Can I see my brothers and sisters in arms once more before my final judgment comes?" The info desk angel turned around to me with a quizzical look for a moment before smiling. "Final what?" "Oh, right. I've handled so many of these cases I kind of forgot how confused you might be. Alright, listen, this might come as a shock, but you're not dead. And as for your comrades, they're not dead either. You're the last of your team to arrive. They're all waiting on you for debriefing. I'll ask that you save your questions until after. This will all make much more sense later. Well, some more sense at least, maybe." I quietly followed the apparently not angel through the busy station until I arrived at the makeshift debriefing room. As I entered, I was greeted by my commanding officer and full squad. Taken aback, I saluted by instinct. The commander gestured for me to take a seat, so I did. The commander walked up to the podium and with the help of a holoprojector started the debriefing. 3 weeks ago, we engaged in battle with the humans. After our initial attack on their ships, we were met with return fire. I should inform you now that of us that participated in that. The commander hesitated, trying to find the right word to say next. After a long moment, unable to find the right one, he proceeded. In that battle, if we can call it that, none were killed or injured. I will discuss this point later. The mowers in the room signaled our obvious confusion. We saw how the kinetic projectiles ripped through our ships and anybody anywhere close to them. But then again, I'm still alive, apparently, and I must have been taken out by one of those projectiles myself, too, so what the commander is saying is probably true. The rest of my squad must have come to the same conclusion I did, seeing as the murmur died down. The humans allowed several ships to leave the battle, and after their report, the humans contacted the collective directly, for a meet-up to clarify things. The location suggested and agreed upon was what we believed to be their homeworld. We could bring as many ships as we wanted to, and so we did. They placed no conditions. Half the armada was gathered there in less than a week's time. What we long believed to be a cloud of dust surrounding their home star was in fact part of a megastructure, Matryoshka brain. And what we thought were the signs of a busy home planet was simply the work of drones, disassembling the whole thing to add more material to the brain. The humans have long ago moved beyond needing physical bodies. In fact, the ships we assaulted were empty. The holoprojector showed an image of me and my team, running and gunning through the empty tunnels of the human ship like mad. I remembered how futile it all was. The humans from inside their digital world have a way to control their ships instantly, regardless of distance, through some sort of quantum magic that not even our top scientists can yet understand. According to the humans, even the ships we faced are absolutely archaic, but they thought it would be fitting, since our microwave pulses were actually charging their energy banks on contact, not that they even needed the extra energy. The kinetic pellets we were hit with were also a sort of transmitter, it seems, designed to shred all but living beings when it comes close to us, and teleport anybody near it to a destination of the humans' choosing, after some set time delay, which is how you all got here 3 weeks later. Why did all this happen? Well, the humans thought it was unfair to eliminate us considering the vast differences between our technologies and military might. And as for why even face us in the first place, it seems it was all a test. A rite of passage for anybody who got big enough to gain the attention of the humans, which our collective did. What we believed to be a rapidly expanding species was something different. Humanity is a Type 3 galaxy-spanning civilization, nearly 1 billion years old from our closest neighbouring galaxy, the Milky Way. This explains many of the anomalies and strange signals coming from there we observed over time. The system we thought was the homeworld, and the Matryoshka brain there, are simply outposts, an info desk if you will. Humanity has already formed a vast web connecting different smaller civilizations from galaxies in our local cluster, a bigger collective if you will. With a mixed expression, somewhere between tired, excited and confused, the commander concluded. Before our short war, the humans already drafted a generous plan for our integration in their society. While serving under them for the next 5,000 years, we will receive education and technology, and if we have matured enough in the next 5,000 years, we will be considered for full human citizenship. It's a short timeline for our collective, but the humans insist that if we are ambitious enough, we can easily make it. That concludes the debriefing. I'll await any questions you might have. 10 years later. After facing the humans, I retired from active service. There's not much need for a military anymore, but the humans still encourage us to take our self-defense seriously. Seeing our advanced microwave technology, the humans gifted us with a strange crop, the hard seeds of which, when oiled and placed in a bag with other flavors and hit with microwaves, expand to several times their size and become warm and tasty. They claimed it was one of their favorite snack foods when watching entertainment, back when they still had physical taste organs. I have to agree with them. It's quite tasty and popular with people of all ages and species. In fact, I now operate a machine that makes them for the local holotheatre. We've taken to calling it Explodicorn.